Welcome, grade 8 students. This is Mr. JB once again, and this is your fourth online class. And today, what we're going to be talking about is language skills, repetition, and parallelism. So I hope that you're ready with your materials, with your literary companion, your copybook, and your pen. And we will start as soon as you turn your books on page 206. Today's learning objectives are as follows. First is to differentiate repetition and parallelism. Next is to identify and correct errors in parallelism. Before we move on to our grammar lesson, let us have a little bit of a review about the vocabulary words yesterday. Let's choose the image that can be associated to the word and write them in your copybook. Please pause this video as you answer the review. I hope that you're already prepared with your answers. Let's see if you got this all correctly. Let's check your answers. So let's see if you got this all correctly. So sustain, we can see this image. Next is elevated, it's lifting up. Indignity, it means to humiliate or to make someone feel bad. Covenant is a promise or a secret agreement. Pernicious is something that relates to harmful and destructive activity. Deprivation is when you take something out from you or you forced something that is out in your context. And reconciliation is this, to have a settled agreement. All right. Now let's dive into our lesson proper, which is repetition and parallelism. So I have a question for you. Have you ever played Lucky 7? Because I bet it's a fun game. This is when you pull down that stick and then it goes round, 3 wheels are going round to show a series of pictures. And for you to win, you have to be able to get all pictures same. I would like to use this game as our springboard to our lesson. You keep on going until you get the same image across. And once everything is same, you hit a jackpot. Same concept as repetition and parallelism. In the game, you keep on doing and wheeling all those rotisserie for you to have the same numbers or the same pictures showed in front of you. And that's how you win a jackpot. In the repetition in grammar rule, repetition of words reinforces a point. So you keep on going and you keep on using the words to show your emphasis to the word. Parallelism, on the other hand, is the use of equal units to strengthen a point. So, as you notice in Lucky 7, it has to be all the same. If you have 7 in the first picture, 7 should be shown in the second picture, then 7 has to be on the third picture for you to have a parallel image. In parallelism in grammar, that's also the same concept because you have to have equal units to strengthen a point and to also avoid confusion. Let's have examples of grammatical units. So right here, as you notice, let me just use my pointer so that you can definitely see what I'm talking about. So we have here some grammatical unit. These are verbs, adjectives, prepositional phrases, and clauses. And we have some examples for you to have a better idea and to better understand why parallelism is important in the grammatical concept. So verbs right here, the example is we saw our homeland spurned, outlawed, and isolated by the peoples of the world. These three bold-faced words, spurned, outlawed, and isolated, are all verbs in the same form. They are all in past form. So when you are going to write words in series, most especially, and if you started with the same tense, you also have to continue the other words and with the same tense for you to have a parallel grammatical units. Next, let's have adjectives. We commit ourselves to the construction of a complete, just, and lasting piece. So, as you notice, adjectives could be a positive adjective and a negative adjective. But here, Nelson Mandela used positive adjectives in series: complete, just, and lasting. So, make sure that when you're going to use adjectives in your description or in a series to describe something, when you start with a positive adjective, also make sure that you're following it with a positive adjective, because if you mix up a negative adjective right here in the middle or in the last, it would not be parallel. Prepositional phrases. We all know that prepositional phrases starts with a preposition, and these are a group of words that describes the noun. So let's have here, we must therefore act together as a united people for national reconciliation, for nation building, and for the birth of a new world. So these three sets of prepositional phrases started with the same preposition, for, and for. That makes it parallel and that makes it grammatically correct. And lastly, we have clauses. We have two types of clauses, dependent and independent. So the example given here is, we are moved by a sense of joy and exhilaration when the grass turns green and the flowers bloom. So the clauses right here shows the same sense and the same context. At the same time, the subject and verb agreement shows correct relationship. So that's how you're going to show the parallelism in your written text. Reason why we need to parallelize things and words, because it definitely confuses people. And once people are confused with the thoughts and the strings of ideas that you're sharing with them, they wouldn't be able to understand what you're trying to say. So for us to correct them, these are some guides for you to be able to tag and see incorrect parallelism. First, the audience listened, cheered, and were applauding. As you notice, listened is in past form, cheered is in past form, where applauding is not really on its past form, though we know that were is in a past tense. We're applauding it's in one unit and it doesn't just give you the same form as the others. So how to correct them? You have to change we're applauding to applauded right here. Second example, Mandela's speech was moving, memory, and inspiring. So as you all notice, moving is an adjective. Memory, I don't think so. Inspiring is an adjective. So the problem here is memory is a noun and not an adjective. So we have to change memory, the noun, to an adjective by putting a suffix to it. So the suffix that we'll put is able. So that means Mandela's speech was moving, memorable, and inspiring. Last example, we must work with our classmates, with our teachers, and parents. This is a series, or this should be a series of prepositional phrases with the with as preposition. But as you know, parents don't have it. So what we could do to correct it? We must work with our classmates, with our teachers, and with our parents. By putting with and our before the word parents makes it parallel. Parallelism is an important tool you can use to reinforce your idea. When you say reinforce, you're emphasizing, you're giving too much meaning to it. You're trying to really push that idea to someone. You're persuading the person. That's trying to make more meaning. That's reinforced. Correct use of parallelism Also ensures that readers can clearly understand the idea you convey or express. Let's put your understanding into practice. Practice and apply. Repetition and parallelism. Read these excerpts from the speech and circle the parallel grammatical units. First excerpt, we all thank our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, and for human dignity. So right now we're going to circle the parallel grammatical units. So in the first example, I hope that you're seeing it already, but we have for justice. I hope this is not like this in your end, but that's just a circle, in one circle for peace. And for human dignity, and the parallel grammatical unit that we have here is prepositional phrases. Next, let's have the second excerpt. We are both humbled and elevated by the honor and privilege that you, the people of South Africa, have bestowed on us. As the President of a united, democratic, non-racial, and non-sexist South Africa, to lead our country out of the valley of darkness. Please try to find the parallel grammatical units on this end. And I hope that we're seeing the same thing. We have right here united, democratic, non-racial, and non-sexist, because these are all adjectives that describe South Africa. Next, let there be work, bread, water, and salt for all. I think it's pretty easy because we see the series already. So let's have the work circled, bread also circled, water here, and salt, because these are privileges that Nelson Mandela wants to give to South Africans. So I hope you have it ready. Let's move on to the next test. Practice 2. These sentences contain errors. Retype each sentence using correct parallel structure. Class, it says retype each sentence. So I hope that you're able to write the sentence on the space provided below. Letter A. We will have a quick, friendly, and enjoying meeting. We will have a quick, friendly, and enjoyable meeting. So we change ing right here to able. That makes it an adjective. B. They celebrate with a parade, with a feast and games. They celebrate with a parade, with a feast and with games. So, reason why we did not put a game, because this is in plural form. As you notice, there's S. So it's fine if you just put with the games there. So that's a series of parallel prepositional phrases. C. The train carries passengers, goods, animals, and with workers. The answer is, the train carries passengers, goods, animals, and workers. Remove the word with because these are all series of nouns. So we don't need to have a prepositional phrase here or at the end. Next, D. We all need to practice speaking, reading, and to listen. We all need to practice speaking, reading, and listening because, so listen right here, is not parallel to the form of speaking and reading. E. We will begin early, hike for a few hours, and then stopping for lunch. The answer is we will begin early, hike for a few hours, then stop for lunch. Reason being, it confuses people if there's an ongoing progressive action right here. So might as well follow the form of the pre-verb right there, which is hike, then make it the base form of the verb, which is stop. All right. Now, three, write a sentence in which you use the repetition of a word to emphasize an idea. So, in making sentences here, verbally we actually do it. I'm guilty of saying very, very at times because I want to really emphasize, and that shows how I want to put much meaning to what I'm trying to say. If I put the very, very in the beginning of the word, say for example, I see a very, very small mouse. So that's something that I usually say verbally, but in written, I am not really like writing it much. But if you want to emphasize something and you want to use repetition, what word would you often use? This is an example. I made sure to practice the song over and over and over on the piano until I could play it perfectly. So the words over and over and over are used to really show the emphasis of practicing it in the piano. In summary, repetition is used by authors to emphasize a point, and parallelism is important to make the grammar structure consistent and not to confuse your reader about the thought of your sentence. So I hope that you were able to understand our lesson today. For a little additional homework that's attached to the next slide, you just have to like press next or wait for me to end right here. Don't end the video yet because the homework will be followed as soon as I do my closing. And I have to take a nap because I've been doing a lot of videos today. See you on the next video, and I hope that you do your homework because we will check it on the next one. Have fun and peace out. Bye, grade 8.